break 19. It's your boy Chicken on the line, and welcome to Joes Road Show, where we're going to be talking about trucks, cars, projects, anything that's going on that sounds like fun. Let's go. So, welcome to the show. This is the first episode. How y'all doing? So, I'm Chicken Joe, coming at you from a really nice, cool, calm day in Alaska. That's something you don't get way too often up here. It's pretty extreme for 8 months out of the year. So today I kind of want to go over the whole deal with Chrysler getting rid of the Challenger and the Charger and their new electric vehicle that's coming up, and a few projects going on and a few plans coming up. And maybe it's something you want to check out later on. So we'll start today off with FCA and their whole deal with killing everyone's favorite cars. Right, so that's not something that comes out every day. You know, sometimes they just slip away. Sometimes they just disappear. But, like, we have a year's heads up that, you know, the last of the muscle cars is dying, right? So, with the Challenger going away and with the Charger going away, the Charger really hasn't been a muscle car since the 70s. I'm sorry. It's definitely an iconic car back in the day. And now, I mean, it is a cool car for what it is. I mean, it's a sedan. They've tried to make it cool. And they've done a good job. I mean, for a four-door, heavy, sedan, it's a great car. I mean, where else can you get that much room and still be able to do 200 miles an hour? In all fairness. But I wouldn't really count it as a muscle car just because that's not what it is. I mean, its roots are muscle car, but that's about it. The Challenger, on the other hand, it is as pure of a muscle car as we can have in 2022. It is still the real deal. It is a two-door, heavy, big American muscle. You can still get one of the biggest V8s that is produced. I mean, of course, you can get crate motors bigger, and you can get it from the factory with a massive blower on top. I think it's a 2.2 liter blower on it. And you can get a version that runs 9s out the box. That's a muscle car. That is what they were built to be. So, why is losing that such a big thing? Because it is losing history. We are throwing away our last look at our past that we can actually see. Right? You know, of course you can build anything. Right now I have a 79 Chevrolet truck. Well, it's a 75, 79, 84. It's a few different trucks, but it's put into one. But you can build anything, right? You can make anything work, and you can restore anything. But as far as being made right now, you can still go to the dealership and buy one. That's the last there is. Yeah, okay. We have a Mustang and Camaro. Woo! Cool. Whatever. They were never muscle cars. They were pony cars. There's a difference. If we want to get into the difference, we can get into that later. That may be a time for another episode. But the fact is, the Challenger is the last muscle car. It's the last of the V8s, you know. Mad Max may be coming earlier than you think. But not only are we losing the last of the muscle cars, but we're also replacing it with an EV. A very cool looking EV. I do have to give them that. Whoever was in the design department, they did a great job. Hey, Chevrolet, you might want to take some notes. But hey, they did a great job. It looks awesome. And I'm so ready to see it come out. I want to go to a showroom and take a look at one. I'd love to get to drive one. The sound is weird, to say the least. We need to maybe work on that, Dodge. Maybe just a little bit. It could be worked on. At idle, if you call it idle for an EV, it sounds awesome. Like, it's still got that rumble. Like, it's scary. You know, that's what you're looking for in a car like that. And then when you get on the throttle a little bit and you give it some beans, and it's like, it just goes weird. If you haven't listened to it, definitely look up where they announced or revealed it and take a listen to it. It's weird. Um, but yeah, we're replacing the last of the muscle cars with an electric car. Don't get me wrong, electric cars are fast. Look at the Model S. That it's, in all honesty, it's smoking Challengers and Chargers on a quarter mile, bone stock, and it's a 4,500-pound sedan. Yes, EVs have a lot of pieces of muscle, right? They're big, heavy cars that turn out a lot of power. They go faster than they probably should. And it's all right there. Torque for days. But the problem is, part of a muscle car, and needless to say, it's probably the most important part, is the aggressiveness. Like, you can't tell me that whenever, like, a 70, Challenger, a 68 Camaro, a 72 Duster, like, hey, you're at a car show and it starts up and you just hear that cam start hitting and all 8 cylinders getting it on straight headers. Like, that is a feeling they will never have with an EV. I'm sorry. You will never get that with an electric motor and a battery. No, it's not going to happen. Are they fast? Yes. Are they faster than a V8? Yeah, probably. If they're not, they're not far off from it. They're definitely quicker. Off the line, you can't beat electric just because the torque right away. But the problem is, you don't have that feel of it. That's the thing with these cars, is the feeling of them. You get in it and you're not driving it. You're just on for the ride. You're suggesting which way it goes, and if it respects you, it will. It's like a wild horse. If it respects you, it'll go that way. It'll handle how you want it to handle. You have to know how to drive them. I feel like, and we've been going this way for a long time, right? So, ever since the late 90s, early 2000s, with traction control, stability control, so on and so forth. I mean, even ABS. ABS is kind of nice at times for a daily driver. But there's so many things on newer vehicles that are integral to how they work. If you look at it from a mechanical and electrical standpoint, it's because it's all built in. But it's like they're not letting you drive. Yeah, you have control of the car, but if you try to push it past what the car thinks it can do, then it shuts you off. It shuts you down. And that's where, like, the new Challengers and Chargers too, and Camaros and even Mustangs. I don't count the Mustang as even a pony car at this point. It's a sports car. We'll get into that later. But they let you take control. They make it where you can turn 90% of that stuff off. And you can go out there, you can blow the tires off of it. You can go out, you can rip it around a track, and if you push it too hard, it's on you. It lets you make mistakes. And it lets you go fast. When you have stability control and traction control and all that stuff that's kind of like pulling the reins back on you, you can't really get the full potential out of it. And okay, yeah, for safety's sake, whatever. Okay, yeah, sure. But let's be honest. If you're buying a car with 700 horsepower, Hellcat, they're everywhere now. I can go up to my Dodge dealership in Fairbanks, Alaska, and I guarantee you they have 2 of them sitting on the lot. That's a 700 horsepower car. Someone that doesn't have any business driving that car is either not going to buy it in the first place, or they're going to find out real quick that they don't have any business driving the car. or they're going to learn how to handle it and have a lot of fun with it. It comes back to just knowing what you can handle and knowing what you want to learn to handle. And that's what all the computer controls and, like I said, traction control, stability control, ABS, and so on. It doesn't let you have control of the car. And with EVs, it's too easy to make that 10 times worse, especially with the self-driving stuff. Come on. Yeah, sure, way of the future, sure, whatever. If you don't want to drive, take a train, take a bus. Don't buy a car. They're a tool to get around, whatever. Sure, that's why they make the Civics. That's why they make the Camrys. That's why they make Corollas, Cruises. Wow, a lot of, A to B cars start with a C. Just notice that. But that's what those are for. But taking the last little bit of just raw power that you can get out of a vehicle, getting rid of that and making it an EV, can it work? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it could be a lot of fun, but it's too easy to let the car take too much control. That takes the fun out of it, if you ask me. I'd like to hear your opinions, see your opinions, read them, whatever. Leave me a comment, leave me whatever, send me a message, whatever. I don't care. But I'd like to see what you say about it. See where you're standing on it. But that's where I'm at. It's more of a freedom thing. It's like being on a motorcycle, right? I've been riding for a long time. It's being out on the highway, and if you make a mistake, it's on you. And a car like that, it's like whether you're on the road and it's an open highway and you decide to give it a little bit of beans, see what it'll do. Obviously don't be doing this in downtown Dallas. Yeah, I'm talking to you, dude, in a Malibu that passed me doing 130. But, if you're on Interstate 80, there's no other traffic up there. Give it some beans. If you're on the Richardson Highway up here in Alaska, there's plenty of completely straight shots. Yeah, it's not the best roads in the world. You gotta, know them a little bit and figure out where all the bumps are. But there's still plenty of opportunities to give it some beans and not bother anyone. You're not going to hurt anything. In the summertime. Don't do that in the winter. Bad idea. But that's what those cars are about. And I feel like we're going the wrong direction. That we're taking the freedom out of that. And that can play into a lot of different things. And that's also a rabbit hole for another video. But it takes the freedom out of it. Look at anyone in the car culture now. One of my favorite, influencers, if you can call him that. But Cletus McFarlane on YouTube, massive on YouTube. That's his whole thing, is pushing that sort of freedom through burning gasoline, burning diesel fuel. You can do anything with them. And you know what? That's actually a really good segue into Project Corner. So, remember earlier I was talking about I have a 70 yes, Chevrolet truck sitting out in my yard. So I bought it off my buddy here a couple months ago, right? And it's a really cool little truck. It's a 79 cab with a 75 front clip, and it's got a 6.2 diesel, Detroit. Naturally aspirated, the thing is gutless. Torque for days, but, it does 0 to 60 and eventually. So, great truck, but when I bought it from him, I got a smoking deal on it, and, diesel truck, for what I gave for it, couldn't pass it up. Well, he was trying to drag it out of the ice. This was this past winter. Or the end of this past winter. And he was trying to drag it out of the ice and tore the transmission up in it. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's an old Chevrolet truck. Easy. Well, I never thought for once in my life that I would ever have a problem finding a Turbohydromatic 400. They put them in every GM truck, or so I thought, for, 30 years. Well, turns out I found 350s for days, which I didn't really want a 350 behind a diesel anyways, just because torque reasons. And I have two perfectly good Turbo 350s sitting in my garage, but both of them are two-wheel drive. Truck's full-wheel. That don't do me any good. So I had the great idea of going and getting a 4-speed to go in it. Or, well, 3-speed with granny low. It depends on how you want to phrase it, but made it a really fun little truck to drive. Now, mind you, this is not your regular 70-something Chevy truck. This is, as far as I can tell, a retired Air Force bobtail, which means it has a wheelbase that is shorter than my Jeep. I have my daily driver. I have a 2014 JKU Wrangler. And I actually measured it out. The wheelbase on my diesel truck is almost a foot shorter than my JKU. That makes it incredibly fun to drive, for one, especially with the 4-speed in it. And the whole reason I bought that truck is to pull trailers with every once in a while. And putting a trailer anywhere with that truck is amazing. It's so much easier than anything else I've ever drove, because it turns on a dime, especially the way I kind of messed with the steering and made it turn really sharp to one way. It's like maybe a half turn, whatever. But it's still really nice to put a trailer anyway, anywhere I want it. And, I got to thinking about it. So I bought the truck, gave a little over $1,000 for it. I bought my parts truck for $500. Now, devil's caveat here, I did pay another $500 to get a drive shaft made, because it's a very short truck. They don't make drive shafts for that off the shelf. So I had to go get one custom built, and it ended up being about $500 too. But I got to thinking about it. I'm like, I have a $2,000 diesel truck. Now, it's not perfect. Right now, I got to put a motor mount in it. One of the bolts backed out. I don't know how much it messed up, but I got some wiring stuff I got to figure out. I got to redo the whole dash. I didn't have to, but it was bothering me a lot. It wasn't very well done. So I'm just going to build a custom dash and all to go in it. But now I have a completely one-off truck you're never going to see again, or at least nothing exactly like it. What do I have in it? Now I have a lot of hours in it, so far, and a lot more coming, because I've barely scratched the surface on what I want to do to it. But I have a running, driving diesel truck that's a standard, almost four-wheel drive. I just got to get another drive shaft made for it. That's probably going to be another $400, but, you'll have that. But I have less than $2,500 in it. So, how does that all relate to, the whole muscle car deal, right? Get on Marketplace, get on Craigslist if that's still a thing where you're at. It's definitely not a thing in Alaska, or at least it's not a reliable thing. Find something out there, and whether it's cars and trucks, whether it's, computers, or whether it's audio, or whatever you want to get into, or whatever you're interested in. Take some time, learn it, and you don't have to know everything. I've been a mechanic pretty much my whole life at this point, and I know far from everything. I learn something new every time I touch a wrench. Every time I touch a vehicle, I learn something new, and that never ends. But I start from nothing and figure it out. Do some people have more of a touch for it than others? Yeah, but anyone can do an oil change. And if you can do an oil change, then you can change a radiator hose. Well, if you can change a radiator hose, then you can drop a radiator in it. Well, if you can do that, then you can do an intake manifold gasket. Well, if you can do all that, then you can do a top end rebuild. And that just spirals. It's all about just taking as little a step as you need to figure it out. And then just go with what you got. Well, what I mean to say here is you can take something from nothing, take $1,000, absolute garbage pile of a Chevrolet, and make it something cool. And it doesn't cost that much. Yeah, the tools and all. What do you need? I would recommend going to get you a good electric impact and a good ratchet kit, a couple of pry bars. A floor jack helps, depending on what you're doing. Okay, that's $500 worth of tools. Even if you're, 16, 17, you're working, you're flipping burgers or you're bagging groceries at minimum wage. That's a couple weeks worth of work to get your tools. Find something on Marketplace. And it don't even have to be $1,000 truck. It can be, a $300 car. Start out with you can pick up like old Corollas or, I love how I was just bagging on these type of cars, but, like an old Camry or something like that. You can get them for like $200, $300 all day on Marketplace. That with good motors, they might have a little bit of a transmission slip, or they may need a CV axle and a set of tires. Some of them may just need to be cleaned out. I bought a few of them like that. Like, it's been sitting for 10 years, but ain't nothing wrong with it. It's just sometimes you gotta go out on a limb and just send it and see what happens. And you'll either make good money doing it, or you'll learn something doing it, or you'll have a lot of fun doing it, or all three all at once. What I'm saying is there's nothing you can lose. Try something new. This whole podcast, this whole recording and content thing, it's new to me, and here I am. I got a cheap setup that I think sounds half decent anyways, and just, you got to start doing it. You got to start learning it. Are you going to suck at first? Yeah, probably. Trust me, I suck at a lot of things. But once you get started, you'll be fine. That's more than a lot of people will ever do. So what I mean to get at with all of this is the muscle car culture was started because someone wanted to do something that hasn't been done before. Whether it been Ford with the Mustang, which wasn't even planned out to be how it was. That was probably the community that bought them was like, hey, this is a good idea. Or whether it was Dodge coming out with the Challenger, and making the first actual muscle car, from the factory. It's about the freedom to be able to do that. And that's how it all ties in. It's the freedom to be able to build, and it's the freedom to be able to go ahead and just do it and have fun with it and be loud and make sure that it's known that this is what you're doing. And, whatever project that is, as long as you're putting your time and money and you're working it, yeah, it gets to be long hours. Trust me, I've had my time with projects. It's been like, all right, I'm going to burn this thing to the ground. But you always keep coming back to it. And that culture is dying. It doesn't need to. That is who we are. Keep that culture alive. We may be losing this car. Yeah, that's a step in the wrong direction. But that doesn't mean we can't take them and make them better. And we can't take them and show them off. And show the big guys like, hey, yeah, what you're doing's all right. But, this is cool. So, if you take anything from it, just build something. Show people what you want. Get started. Hit it just right. Someone will notice. So, there's that. Anyways. So, yeah, get started. Make something cool. might find out you like it. But, on that note, before I get way off into a rabbit hole somewhere, I'm out of time for the day. It's been good talking to you. I'm your boy Chicken Joe. Y'all be safe. Keep the shiny side up. I'll catch y'all next time. See ya.